Kelompok satu, kelompok tiga.
Kegiatan pengabdian masyarakat di desa di Solo, maka administrasi kami untuk kebersihan
Kelompok satu, kelompok tiga.
kegiatan pengabdian masyarakat di desa di Solo, maka administrasi kami
Kelompok satu, kelompok tiga.
kegiatan pengabdian masyarakat di desa di Solo, maka administrasi kami
Kelompok satu, kelompok tiga.
kegiatan pengabdian masyarakat di desa di Solo, maka administrasi kami
Kelompok satu, kelompok tiga.
kegiatan pengabdian masyarakat di desa di Solo, maka administrasi kami
Kelompok satu, kelompok tiga.
kegiatan pengabdian masyarakat di desa di Solo, maka administrasi kami
Kelompok satu, kelompok tiga.
kegiatan pengabdian masyarakat di desa di Solo, maka administrasi kami
Kelompok satu, kelompok tiga.
Dan yang terakhir, Prodi Teknik Metalurgi dengan cakupan pengolahan pemurnian mineral dan pemanfaatan batu bara. Kedepannya, lulusan PEP Bandung diharapkan mampu menjadi tenaga kerja unggul. Dan yang terakhir, Prodi Teknik Metalurgi dengan cakupan pengolahan pemurnian mineral dan pemanfaatan batu bara. Kedepannya, lulusan PEP Bandung diharapkan mampu menjadi tenaga kerja unggul. Dan yang terakhir, Prodi Teknik Metalurgi dengan cakupan pengolahan pemurnian mineral dan pemanfaatan batu bara. Kedepannya, lulusan PEP Bandung diharapkan mampu menjadi tenaga kerja unggul. Dan yang terakhir, Prodi Teknik Metalurgi dengan cakupan pengolahan pemurnian mineral dan pemanfaatan batu bara. Kedepannya, lulusan PEP Bandung diharapkan mampu menjadi tenaga kerja unggul. Dan yang terakhir, Prodi Teknik Metalurgi dengan cakupan pengolahan pemurnian mineral dan pemanfaatan batu bara. Kedepannya, lulusan PEP Bandung diharapkan mampu menjadi tenaga kerja unggul. Dan yang terakhir, Prodi Teknik Metalurgi dengan cakupan
menambah wawasan, menambah pengalaman. Yang paling utama sih nambah pengetahuan ya, karena dari sinilah kita nanti untuk bekal kedepannya.
Pertama, saya bisa banyak belajar ilmu tentang rescue dan pertolongan pertama di alam. Yang kedua, menambah wawasan saya bahwa alam itu juga liar. Jadi kalau kita tidak bisa memaksimalkan potensi dan kita tidak tahu apa yang kita lakukan di alam, mungkin akan terjadi akibat fatal bagi kita semua. Saya juga berterima kasih kepada tim instruktur, tim PEP, dan teman-teman mahasiswa yang sudah mendukung kelancaran acara hari ini. Semoga kedepannya program ini bisa terus berjalan, menjadi program rutin tahunan bagi mahasiswa PEP, dan bisa membawa kebaikan juga untuk PEP dan orang-orang di sekitarnya.
PEP, kelompok 1, kelompok 3,
kegiatan pengabdian masyarakat di desa di Solo, maka administrasi kami untuk kebersihan, maka kami akan menyumbangkan 10 unit bak sampah, 3 cangkul, 10 sapu lidi, dan kantong kresek.
Guys, kamu harus tahu nih, sektor energi sumber daya mineral atau ESDM memiliki peran yang sangat penting sebagai penjamin sumber pasokan energi dan mineral di Indonesia. Dalam pelaksanaannya, ESDM memerlukan tenaga ahli yang berkualitas, tidak hanya di lingkup nasional, namun juga internasional. Bersamaan dengan program kerja Presiden yaitu mengutamakan pembangunan SDM yang terampil serta menguasai iptek di era industri 4.0, Politeknik Energi dan Pertambangan atau PEP Bandung di bawah Kementerian ESDM hadir menawarkan pendidikan vokasi yang dapat mencetak SDM sesuai kebutuhan industri pertambangan. PEP Bandung memiliki program unggulan yaitu magang selama 1 tahun di perusahaan pertambangan di seluruh Indonesia. Kurikulum di PEP Bandung juga didominasi oleh praktek guys, jadi nantinya kalian akan lebih siap untuk menghadapi dunia kerja. Selain itu, para lulusan PEP Bandung juga akan mendapatkan sertifikasi sesuai dengan program studi dan kebutuhan industrinya. Kementerian ESDM juga memiliki program beasiswa yang menarik banget buat para mahasiswa berprestasi. Politeknik Energi dan Pertambangan atau PEP Bandung hadirkan 3 program studi. Yang pertama yaitu Prodi Geologi yang mencakup eksplorasi geologi, geofisika, geokimia. Selanjutnya, Prodi Teknologi Pertambangan dengan cakupan teknik penambangan, lingkungan, dan keselamatan pertambangan. Dan yang terakhir, Prodi Teknik Metalurgi dengan cakupan pengolahan pemurnian mineral dan pemanfaatan batu bara. Kedepannya, lulusan PEP Bandung diharapkan mampu menjadi tenaga kerja unggul yang kompeten dan siap kerja, serta berdaya saing tinggi di bidangnya. Untuk info lebih lanjut, kamu bisa langsung mengunjungi www.pepbandung.ac.id. PEP Bandung, Politeknik terbaik bidang energi dan pertambangan di Indonesia.
tambang seperti yang kita ketahui sangat padat modal, berteknologi tinggi dan padat risiko. Untuk mempersiapkan poin ketiga tadi, padat risiko, mahasiswa PEP Bandung wajib mendapat pembekalan untuk pendidikan pertolongan pertama, gawat darurat, dan vertical rescue.
Mahasiswa di PEP ini, mereka diharapkan akan bekerja di dunia industri yang penuh dengan risiko terhadap keselamatan karyawan, lingkungan, dan juga peralatan. Maka dengan itu, PEP Bandung membekali mereka dengan kegiatan ekstrakurikuler berupa pelatihan PPGD dan vertical rescue. Diharapkan dengan dasar-dasar terhadap materi seperti ini akan berguna ketika mereka terjun ke dunia kerja. Diharapkan mereka dapat siap untuk bekerja dan berkarya di dalam industri pertambangan yang penuh risiko dengan seperti itu. Di dalam industri pertambangan yang penuh risiko dengan seperti itu.
Selamat pagi.
Inilah yang sekarang suka dipakai di tempat-tempat wisata. Kalian itu bukan jalur pendakian, jadi kita harus buat jalur kita yang medannya cukup terjal.
Pelatihan PPGD dan Vertical Rescue adalah salah satu pendukungan bagi mereka yang nantinya akan melakukan satu buah aktivitas di luar ruangan. Maka dari itu, kami di sini membuat satu buah sistem dari semua ini untuk mencakup dari kebutuhan tersebut. Salah satunya adalah ada rappelling dan juga ada scanning. Scanning sendiri di sini adalah untuk melatih mereka agar bisa keluar dalam zona yang kritis maupun rappelling tersebut. Di sini juga kami memberikan pembelajaran atau pemahaman kaitannya dengan masalah PPGD, pertolongan pertama pada gawat darurat.
Cukup mengesankan, menambah wawasan, menambah pengalaman, yang paling utama sih nambah pengetahuan ya, karena dari sinilah kita nanti untuk bekal kedepannya.
Pertama, saya bisa banyak belajar ilmu tentang rescue dan pertolongan pertama di alam. Yang kedua, menambah wawasan saya bahwa alam itu juga liar. Jadi kalau kita tidak bisa memaksimalkan potensi dan kita tidak tahu apa yang kita lakukan di alam, mungkin akan terjadi akibat fatal bagi kita semua. Saya juga berterima kasih kepada tim instruktur, tim PEP, dan teman-teman mahasiswa yang sudah mendukung kelancaran acara hari ini. Semoga kedepannya program ini bisa terus berjalan, menjadi program rutin tahunan bagi mahasiswa PEP, dan bisa membawa kebaikan juga untuk PEP dan orang-orang di sekitarnya.
PEP, yeah! Kelompok 1. Kelompok 3.
Kegiatan pengabdian masyarakat di desa di Solo, maka administrasi kami untuk kebersihan, maka kami akan menyumbangkan 10 unit bak sampah, 3 cangkul, 10 sapu lidi, dan kantong kresek.
Guys, kamu harus tahu nih, sektor energi sumber daya mineral atau ESDM memiliki peran yang sangat penting sebagai penjamin sumber pasokan energi dan mineral di Indonesia. Dalam pelaksanaannya, ESDM memerlukan tenaga ahli yang berkualitas, tidak hanya di lingkup nasional, namun juga internasional. Bersamaan dengan program kerja Presiden, yaitu mengutamakan pembangunan SDM yang terampil, serta menguasai iptek di era Industri 4.0, Politeknik Energi dan Pertambangan atau PEP Bandung di bawah Kementerian ESDM hadir menawarkan pendidikan vokasi yang dapat mencetak SDM sesuai kebutuhan industri pertambangan. PEP Bandung memiliki program unggulan yaitu magang selama 1 tahun di perusahaan pertambangan di seluruh Indonesia. Kurikulum di PEP Bandung juga didominasi oleh praktek guys, jadi nantinya kalian akan lebih siap untuk menghadapi dunia kerja. Selain itu, para lulusan PEP Bandung juga akan mendapatkan sertifikasi sesuai dengan program studi dan kebutuhan industrinya. Kementerian ESDM juga memiliki program beasiswa yang menarik banget buat para mahasiswa berprestasi. Politeknik Energi dan Pertambangan atau PEP Bandung hadirkan 3 program studi. Yang pertama yaitu Prodi Geologi yang mencakup eksplorasi geologi, geofisika, geokimia. Selanjutnya, Prodi Teknologi Pertambangan dengan cakupan teknik penambangan, lingkungan, dan keselamatan pertambangan. Dan yang terakhir, Prodi Teknik Metalurgi dengan cakupan pengolahan pemurnian mineral dan pemanfaatan batu bara. Kedepannya, lulusan PEP Bandung diharapkan mampu menjadi tenaga kerja unggul yang kompeten dan siap kerja, serta berdaya saing tinggi di bidangnya. Untuk info lebih lanjut, kamu bisa langsung mengunjungi www.pepbandung.ac.id. PEP Bandung, Politeknik terbaik bidang energi dan pertambangan di Indonesia.
tambang seperti yang kita ketahui sangat padat modal, berteknologi tinggi dan padat risiko. Untuk mempersiapkan poin ketiga tadi, padat risiko, mahasiswa PEB Bandung wajib mendapat pembekalan untuk pendidikan, pertolongan pertama, gawat darurat, dan vertical rescue.
Mahasiswa di PEP ini, mereka diharapkan akan bekerja di dunia industri yang penuh dengan risiko terhadap keselamatan karyawan, lingkungan, dan juga peralatan. Maka dengan itu, PEP Bandung membekali mereka dengan kegiatan ekstrakurikuler berupa pelatihan PPGD dan vertical rescue. Diharapkan dengan dasar-dasar terhadap materi seperti ini akan berguna ketika mereka terjun ke dunia kerja. Diharapkan mereka dapat siap untuk bekerja dan berkarya di dalam industri pertambangan yang penuh risiko dengan seperti itu.
Cari posisi yang aman.
Selamat pagi. Inilah yang sekarang suka dipakai di tempat-tempat wisata, kita lihat. Itu bukan jalur pendakian.
Halo? Halo?
Halo, Prof. Ralph.
Oh, good morning. Selamat siang.
Oh ya, selamat siang. Good morning in Germany.
Good morning, good morning.
Oke. Halo, Prof. Iskandar Siregar.
Halo, selamat siang and good morning. Guten Morgen.
Selamat siang, Pak.
Ya, guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen.
Okay, we still have 1 minute left.
Yeah.
And we are still waiting for Dr. Bang because Dr. Bang.
Oh, good morning, Pak Teddy.
Good morning, Pak Raf.
Selamat siang, Bapak sekalian. Selamat siang, Pak Jatmiko.
Yes.
Salam dari Dermaga.
Siap, Prof.
Siap.
Oh, good morning, sir. Good morning.
Good morning, Dr. Ralph. Prof.
Good morning.
Morning in terms of time of Germany.
Yes, sorry to say. Yes, selamat siang. Yes.
Selamat siang. Guten Morgen.
Guten Morgen. We are here before breakfast.
Yes. We just had lunch.
Yes.
Yeah. That's finished.
So it means you are tired and I'm motivated, yeah.
Because full of food.
Yes.
Make us going sleepy, a lot of food.
Yes.
Like a snake.
Yes.
Oke, Pak Wahid. Bisa kita mulai aja, Pak? Atau gimana, Pak? Pak Wahid masih di mute, Pak.
Selamat siang, Pak Jatmiko.
Selamat siang, Pak Wahid.
Selamat siang, Pak.
Selamat siang, Pak Profesor Iskandar.
Siap, Pak. Selamat siang.
Morning, Prof.
Good morning. Selamat siang, Pak. Good morning.
Damang, Pak Wahid, Damang.
Sudah lama nggak bersuhu, Pak. Terima kasih atas kesiapan nih Pak, kesediaannya Pak Jatmiko, Pak Prof.
Siap, Pak.
Dengan senang hati Pak Wahid.
Kita bawa sedikit international flavor ya Pak ya ke PEP ini.
Luar biasa.
Saya biasa di luar Pak.
Okay, can we start or still waiting for Mr. Bang?
Yeah, I think we can start, Parisa, because as you know, Mr. Bang will be presenting for the last one, so maybe we can start for the webinar.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
I would like to welcome Distinguished Acting Director of Bandung Polytechnic of Energy and Mining, or PEP Bandung, Dr. Andes Wahid Sugiman. Distinguished speakers, Insinyur Sujatmiko as Acting Director of Engineering and Environmental for Mineral and Coal. Professor Dr. Ralph Midlerner from Department of Tropical Silviculture and Forest Ecology, George August, Universitat Göttingen, Germany. Professor Dr. Iskandar Zulkarnain Siregar from Department of Silviculture, Faculty of Forestry, and as Director for International Program IPB University. Sun Baek Bang, PhD, as Deputy General Manager of Mine Reclamation Corporation, Mireco, Korea. Distinguished participants, welcome to the international webinar held by PEP Bandung. My name is Farisatul Amanah. I am very honored to be a host and co-moderator in this webinar. This webinar is titled Ex-Mine Reclamation, Linking Sciences to Best Practices. I would like to inform you there are over 1,000 participants who has registered in this webinar through Zoom application, and the participants come from government officers, private sector, especially mining sector, lecturers, and students. And this webinar is also available in YouTube live streaming. Before we go on, I would like to inform the rules of this webinar. To all participants, please use your real name on your Zoom application account. And then the presence form will be given in the link during this webinar. So just stay tuned and don't ask when the link appears. Participants who attend the webinar via YouTube live streaming may also fill the presence form to get the e-certificate. And to all participants who want to ask questions, you can write your question on your Q&A box on Zoom application and chat box on YouTube. Please write your name, your institution, the speaker's name, and the question. Remember your name, your institution, the speaker's name, and the question. For example, Mr. Budi Susanto from PT Batubara Jaya, to Prof. Ralph, for example, and the question. And please write your question in English. A certificate will be issued for participants who attend the whole event of the webinar. And without further ado, I would like to invite Acting Director of Bandung Polytechnic of Energy and Mining, PEP Bandung, Bapak Dr. Andes Wahid Sugiman, to deliver the opening remark.
Oke. Thank you. Terima kasih Mbak Farisatul Amanah. Sebelum saya menyampaikan sambutan ini, izin menyampaikan bahwa Bapak Wirat Majapuja, Kepala BPSDM SDM, sangat disayangkan tidak bisa bergabung dalam acara webinar ini karena ada agenda mendadak di Kementerian SDM. Yang saya hormati para narasumber, Bapak Insinyur Sujatmiko, kawan lama yang begitu dekat, PLT Direktur Teknik dan Lingkungan Mineral dan Batubara. Selamat siang, Pak.
Selamat siang, Pak Wahid.
Bapak Profesor Iskandar Siregar, Guru Besar di Departemen Silviculture, Fakultas Kehutanan, dan juga sebagai Direktur Program Internasional di IPB. Distinguished speakers, Profesor Dr. Ralph Midlerner from Department of Tropical Silviculture and Forest Ecology, George August, Universitat Göttingen, German. Mr. Sun Baek Bang, PhD, as a Deputy General Manager of Mine Reclamation Corporation, Mireco, Korea. distinguished lecturers, as panelists, and our students, distinguished participants of our webinar, para dosen, calon dosen, tenaga pendidik, dan mahasiswa PEP Bandung yang saya banggakan, dan para peserta webinar PEP Bandung. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Pertama-tama marilah kita mengucapkan puji syukur kehadirat Tuhan Yang Maha Esa yang telah melimpahkan berbagai nikmat dan karunia-Nya sehingga pada siang hari ini kita dapat berkumpul bersama dalam acara webinar X-Mind Reclamation Thinking Science to be Best Practice. Sebelumnya saya ingin mengucapkan banyak terima kasih kepada para narasumber yang telah bersedia meluangkan waktunya untuk menjadi pembicara dalam acara webinar ini. Mohon izin, sekilas kami sampaikan bahwa Politeknik Energi dan Pertambangan Bandung, yang kita singkat PEP Bandung, merupakan pendidikan vokasi diploma 3 yang memiliki 3 program studi terapan, yaitu teknologi pertambangan, teknologi geologi, dan teknologi metalurgi. Saat ini kami baru memiliki 1 angkatan yang berjumlah 90 mahasiswa, dan saat ini sedang melakukan proses penerimaan mahasiswa angkatan kedua. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I would like to express my thankful to all speaker and who attends in this webinar. We briefly present that Bandung Polytechnic of Energy and Mining, or PEP Bandung, is a vocational education diploma 3 vocational education institution that has 3 applied study programs, namely mining technology, geological technology, and metallurgical technology. At present, we have our first batch of 90 students and are currently in the process of accepting a second batch. Hadirin sekalian, kegiatan pertambangan di Indonesia ini merupakan salah satu sektor yang penting sekali dalam menghasilkan penerimaan negara, baik itu pajak atau royalti. Namun demikian, aspek lingkungan merupakan salah satu masalah yang sangat sensitif pada kegiatan ini. Dalam hal pemulihan lahan bekas tambang sesuai fungsinya, proses reklamasi ini wajib dilakukan. Tujuan dari kegiatan reklamasi adalah untuk menjaga kestabilan tanah, meningkatkan produktivitas tanah, dan mengembalikan atau meningkatkan fungsi dari lahan bekas tambang tersebut. Bentuk dari kegiatan reklamasi lahan bekas tambang disesuaikan dari rencana tata ruang dan wilayah semula. Reklamasi lahan bekas tambang dapat dilakukan bukan hanya dalam bentuk pengembalian ke fungsi hutan, namun juga reklamasi bentuk lain seperti menjadi perumahan, objek wisata, sumber air, dan area budidaya. Berkaitan dengan 3 program studi yang ada di PEP Bandung, kegiatan reklamasi memiliki peran yang sangat penting dalam kegiatan geologi, pertambangan, dan metalurgi. Kami berharap PEP Bandung dapat menciptakan para lulusan yang memiliki dan menguasai teknologi, yang juga dapat memulihkan kembali area bekas tambang sehingga menjadi lebih bermanfaat. Ladies and gentlemen, mining in Indonesia is one of the most important sectors to get state revenue, both in the term of tax and royalties. Despite of its benefits, environmental aspects are clearly the most sensitive and most important issue in mining activity. In order to restore the X-mine area to its function, the process of X-mine reclamation must be carried out. The purpose of mine reclamation is to maintain soil stability, increase soil productivity, and restore the function of the X-mine land. Ladies and gentlemen, regarding of our study program in PEP Bandung, mine reclamation has important role in geology, mining, and also metallurgy activity. We hope the PP Bandung will be able to create graduates who possess and master technology that can also restore the ex-mine land so that it's become more productive. Finally, we hope this webinar can be informative for us, especially student and lecturer at PIB Bandung. Akhir kata, kami berharap acara webinar ini dapat bermanfaat bagi kita semua, khususnya para mahasiswa dan dosen PIB Bandung. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Bapak Dr. Andes Wahid Sugiman for the opening remark. We move to the presentation session now. I would like to invite Dr. Teddy Yunanto as the moderator who guide the webinar.
Okay, thank you, Farisa. Hello, Dr. Bang. You finally present in this webinar.
Yeah. Hi,
Okay,
Dr. Bang.
okay.
Welcome. Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi.
Before I would like to introduce myself, my name is Teddy Yunanto. I am from Bandung, Polytechnic of Energy and Mining. In the next 2 hours, I will direct this webinar with the title Ex-Mine Reclamation, Linking Science to Best Practice. Presently, as we know that there are new mining law released, and it's become the hot issue. And as mandatory, mine reclamation have to conduct by all mining company, and there are some obstacle or challenge. For example, related with the soil and also for the selection of appropriate species. So that's why it is need the science to create a successful reclamation program. It also we invite Mireko from Korea to make some insight about the mine reclamation program in their countries. So we have 4 speakers now. First is Pak Sujatmiko. He is the acting director of engineering and environmental of mineral and coal. And then the second speaker is Professor Lapnit Luner. He is the professor in the tropical silviculture and forest ecology Göttingen University, German. And then the third speaker is Professor Iskandar Jurkainen Siregar. He is from the Department of Silviculture, Faculty of Forestry, and also as the Director of International Program of IPB University. And the last one, the speaker is Dr. Sun Baek Bang. He is from Miracle, Mine Reclamation Corporation. Ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question, you can write the question in the Q&A column. So after the presentation, I will read the presentation. So the mechanism is all the speaker will present all the presentation, and the maximum is 20 minutes. Maximum for the presenter is 20 minutes. And then we continue with the discussion approximately 30 minutes. So without further ado, I would like to invite the first speaker. He is Pak Sujatmiko. Pak Sujatmiko, besides as the acting director of engineering and environmental for mineral and coal, he also director of coal business development, DGMC. He is graduated from IPB University from the soil science. So Pak Sujatmiko will be presenting about the mine reclamation regulation in Indonesia. So Pak Sujatmiko, you may start your presentation.
Thank you, Pak Teddy dan Pak Wahid and all speakers. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon for all. This topic, ex-mine reclamation, linking sciences to best practice, is very, very attracting, and then also very challenging, because with science and best practice in this present, I will present you in between how regulation can bridging about science and best practices, because if we just rely on the sciences, maybe it's not works in the field because maybe sometimes too high in standards. And best practices without science sometimes doesn't have a good ground control. In this case, I will share to you how the regulation in mining and environment in Indonesia from the start from the early 70s up to now. As Pak Teddy already said that there are new law regarding mining law that this law will enhance the execution or implementation of reclamation and post mining in the present stage. Please, next slide, please. I will present three kind of topics, but introduction I just started a few minutes ago, and then how about our policy, and then issues and challenges. Next slide, please. Talking about mining in Indonesia, we will see this kind of data. We have around 3,200 permit existing right now. And then as Pak Teddy and Pak Wahid already said that mining still have very good contribution to our economy, especially in this period that we have a COVID-19 pandemic. All the economic activities slow down, but mining, by any means, the mining must be operated in the field because they will provide materials and as well as the revenue for the government. Just for your figures, last year we produced around 616 million tons of coal, which is more than 75% are exported. And then we produced gold about 109 tons. And in terms of investment, we have around 6.5 billion US dollar. And then about the reclamation achievement, last year we reclaimed around 8,300 hectares of ex-mine land that can be already been reclaimed by the company. Next slide, please. In this slide, I will tell you about the historical and concurrent regulation in terms of reclamation in mining, especially in the forest area. The previous one, the left side one is, I want to tell you that all the company before operate, they must have sort of mining license. I mean, environmental license. And then based on the new law number 3, 2020, the mining company has obligation to successfully reclaim the open pit mining up to 100% successful rate. Before the achievement, they cannot leave the site, and they still have a sort of obligation to maintain and to fix if any degradation of land that already left behind because of the deposit already finished, still till post-closure mining. And from the right-hand side, if the mining area in the forest area, they also have permitting from the Ministry of Environment and Forestry, meaning that they must reclaim land, they must stable mining land in accordance with the standard from the Minister of Mine Energy Minister. But if they want to grow forest, they want to grow tree, they must comply with standards from the Minister of Environment and Forestry. It is a unique challenge for the mining company. So need good coordination between us in Minister of Mining and Energy with the Minister of Environment and Forestry. Next slide, please. this is your perubahan apa bahasa Inggrisnya? Mbak Farid, Mbak. Changing. Sorry, I must.
Amendment, Pak.
Revise,
Amendments.
yeah, amendment.
Amendments.
I mean,
Amendments.
I want to say that based on the previous law, government I will feel that the obligation for the mining company to do successful reclamation is not so powerful enough. So in this new law, if the mining company, if the mining owner, if the mining permitting do not comply with the regulation, they will face to kind of fine. The first one is can be jailed by the government if they breach the law. The second one is can be fined by up to 100 billion rupiah money fine from the government. Meaning that the mining operators forced by the regulation to accomplish reclamation standard 100%. Otherwise, they will face difficulties on the next period of operation. For example, if they want to change the location, if they move to another area, if we see the data, the past performance not so good enough, the government will not issue the new permit for them. Next slide. Next slide, please. Now, this is the key principles how we manage reclamation and post mining activity, and then the second, the right one is the rational basis of the regulations. For example, in a planning basis stage, the company must submit reclamation mining. They must put enough money to the bond in the bank to give jaminan atau apa namanya guarantee for the government that there already there will enough money, enough budget to do reclamation if the mining company to some extent fail to do reclamations. And then for the closure planning, they also engage the social, the local society, because if we talk about the closure planning, at the end of the day, X mining area will be managed or will be operated by local society and local government. So in this case, mining company cannot solely determine the post mining land use. They must consult thoroughly with government and local society. Both of them to give some certainty or some guarantee that yes, the sustainable mining development and the sustainable economic development after mining can be achieved, because closure mining provide sort of a soft landing society to do economic activity after the mining ceased. And then finally, the land must be handed over to the local owner or to the government. In this case, we have some criteria. If the company already fulfill the criteria, the land can be handed over to the local government or local authority, or even for the central government. For example, for the forestry and environmental department. Next slide, please. This is sort of the regulation or management of reclamation and closure using sort of criteria that this criteria is derived from the best available or best achievable method, but still give some certainty or some guarantee for the government that the standard is good enough or sufficient enough to maintain the location after the miners have left the site. Meaning that the basic principle is X mining area must be can manage with minimum resources, using the local knowledge and local resources, for example, local species or local local design of landscape. We don't want to use high standard, but cannot be maintained by local society. That's the basic criteria of the closure policy. Next slide, please. This is how we enforce, how we regulate reclamation and closure since initial set of activity for general survey up to your commercial production and closure activity. In this slide, I tell you that I inform that the mining company, even though still initial stage of activity, for example, just survey, they must put some sort of money to be put in the bank as a reclamation bond, meaning that if they do not successfully explore the site and then hand over the land to the government have some budget to reclaim the land that has been, for example, degraded because of exploration activity. Next slide. In this case, in this slide, the basic information is how the government of Indonesia manage or regulate period of closure activity up to monitoring and handover. For example, at the end of the day, the mining company has reclaimed the land, and then they must monitor up to certain years to give to prove to the government that yes, the reclamation can be purchased, can be prolonged without any significant maintenance from the operator. And finally, the ex-mine area can be sustained by themselves. Afterward, the land can be handed over to the government. This is the story about the regulation and then best practices. And then I want to jump to the slide number. Gambar-gambar, Mas, please. Nah, this is one of the best practice that has been implemented in the field. From for example, from the land grading, topsoiling, and then erosion control. Next slide. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. For example, how the government and mining operator save the topsoil, and then they prevent erosion. And then the next slide is talking about acid mine drainage. Must be prevented, and then must build some pond or water management, and then if any, the water can be used also for the local government, local society. I mean, next slide, please. Next slide. Next. Hold here. This is the best, one of the best reclamation story in our operations. Talking PHP dulu already closed the mine to in a certain pit area, and then they reclaim the area and convert it into the grand forest taman hutan raya for the sit untuk sanctuary. And then Kalian Equator Mining, one of the sister company of Rio Tinto in London, they produce gold in East Kalimantan. In 2003, they stopped the mining operation and processing, and then up to now they still manage the area before hand over to the government. Meaning that the monitoring and proof of success is vary. Can be 2 or 3 years, can be all 10 years, based on the depend on the achievement of the company and the condition of forest. And then the right-hand side is Newmont Minasaraya, subsidiary of Newmont, already successfully reclaimed X-mine area and hand over to the government, become a botanical garden. And if you have any chance to visit them, I suggest you to visit them and then to see that how the beautiful of your forest that can be grown from mining area. Next slide, please. Terus, Mas, please, next slide. Up, yes, here. In this graph, we saw that we realized during the peak of mining operation, yes, there are a lot of land has been opened by the mining company to be mined and to produce gold or coal. But at the end of the day, whenever the mine is ceased, whenever the mine is closed, the gap must be narrowed and up to 0 hectare of ex-mining area that cannot reclaim. The graph tell us about the concept of temporary land use. Mining is temporary land use of activity. So trust to the Director General of Mineral and Coal, give us a piece of land and we will mine the deposit and we produce it and deliver to the market and to give the government non-tax revenue and revenue of and provide jobs. But at the end, we will responsible for any hectare of land that can be mined, that already been mined, and we manage it, and we ask to the company to reclaim it and to hand over to the government in a stable and productive situation. Next slide. Terus Mas, sampai akhir aja. Terus. Next. Nah, next. Up. Nah, our minister, sebelum Mas. Next. Our minister has given setelah. Nah ini this. Before. This one. Please stop here. I want to tell to the audience that the Minister of Energy and Mineral Resources, Pak Arifin Tasrif, has declared that a concept of energy back to energy, meaning that in the term of coal mining company, when we mine the coal, transfer it and deliver to South Korea, for example, Pak Bang, the mining operators must responsible for returning back the energy that has been mined before in the form of renewable energy. The mining company can provide renewable energy from biomass, or can be from the water, or can come from photovoltaic, solar panel, or even from the wind power. Meaning that because based on the previous experiences, whenever the mining is gone, the local people want to have a economic activity in that area. One of the obstacles is reliable source of energy. So based on that experience, the lesson learned is the mining closure must also provide sustainable energy for the local society to live and to live in a sustainable manner. That's of my presentation. Forgive me if I present in not so good language, because so many years I never use my English.
Very good, Pak.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you for your presentation, Pak Sujatmiko. If I make some point from Pak Sujatmiko presentation, that there are an obligation for the mining company to keep or to save some money, is called it bond of guarantee, both for the mine reclamation and the mine closure. Now, DGMC also drafting a new regulation about the mine reclamation, especially related to the gap of disturbed land and reclamation land. And also we can see from the presentation there are some successful mine reclamation, especially related with the vegetation. You can see from the PT Kendilo, PT Minahasa Raya. And then we continue to the second speaker. So the second speaker is Professor Ladni Luner. He is a professor in the Department of Tropical Silviculture and Forest Ecology, Göttingen University, German. So his expertise in the site adaptation of local trees, silviculture techniques, and also forest or land rehabilitation or land restoration. So Pak Rab, you have a maximum time 20 minutes and you may start your presentation.
Yes, thank you very much. Dear participants, I first want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to Professor Iskandar Sirigar and Dr. Tidi Yunanto, to the speaker today, because through Dr. Tidi Yunanto, I had the chance to visit coal mining, open cast coal mining in Kalimantan the first time. So my impression is not a deep impression and not a deep experience on Indonesian reclamation success and challenges. It is just a view from outside, and please understand my presentation as such. So I would like to share now the screen and give you some information on my impression and some suggestions, but please see them from the background that I'm an observer from outside, not from inside. So, share screen. So, Teddy Yonanto, do you see the screen well?
Not yet, Pak Rab. We cannot see your presentation.
Not yet.
Share screen.
Now? Do you see it now?
Not. No, not yet, Pak Rab. Or maybe we can help, Pak Rab. It's okay?
Just wait. Sorry. Yes, please help. Please be so kind and help.
Okay, Ms. Parisa, could you show the presentation of Pak Rab?
You don't see
Well,
any, yeah?
I need a couple of.
Do you see it now?
Yeah,
yes,
yeah,
we can
excellent,
see it now.
very good.
You see it now. Oh, I'm happy.
You can full screen first, Pak Rab.
Okay. You see it now, yes? Please?
Okay,
yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Okay, I'm happy. Thank you very much. So, sorry for this, ladies and gentlemen. So, I changed the title a little bit to Forest Landscape Reclamation Challenges on Ex-Mining Sites, and I will bring a comparison of German history of mining to the Indonesian situation, the possible Indonesian situation today. And I will refer to what I have seen on short trips on open cast mining rehabilitation in Kalimantan. So, you know, in Germany 400 years ago, we faced a very similar problem. We had a lot of timber has been exploited and we lost a lot of our landscapes were ruined. And mining in Europe had a big share of this problem. You see here in 500 years ago, they denuded forests and the mining activities at that time. And the consequences were that vast areas steppizated and karstizated, for example, Ore mountains, Harz mountains, and the mining activities have been questioned at all because there was a lack of timber and they needed timber very much for the mining activities. So because of the lack of timber, the mining sector established the forestry schools. These forestry schools developed further to the faculties of forestry, which we have nowadays. And my faculty of forestry is the result actually of these old forestry schools, and the mining sector was the initiator of these several hundred years ago. So the word sustainable, or in German nachhaltend, was first of use internationally, as far we know, in 1713 by the mining officer von Karlowitz. And this is a gentleman on the left side in the typical haircut of this of these times. And this was the writings of him. So sustainability has a tradition, and the mining sector actually was aware very early and among the earliest to point out the necessity of sustainability. So what happened? Actually, our primary forest, our untouched forest, as we see here, a last remain in northern Germany, changed to something else. It changed to this forest. And that took about 250 to 300 years because we needed to know how does this one species, this main species, react to the site conditions, react to changing climate, to changing soil, to different soils, how to bring it up, how to plant it, all these. And in Germany, we have about 70 woody species only. And compared to whole Indonesia, with about, these are only estimates of 12,000 woody species. So now we have such a situation, and this is now a picture from Kalimantan. Now we see here a short part of 12,000 species, and we can estimate to have 100 to 120 tree species per hectare. And now, to know these species' adaptive abilities and capabilities to the soil is really hard work, and the Bogor, Yogyakarta, and other universities in Indonesia are hard working on this topic. So we start with this, and when we see that triangle of dependencies, here we see the vegetation. That is a vegetation what we find before mining. And this vegetation will be cut off, will be completely removed. But with this also the soil will be removed. So soil and vegetation relationship will be gone. And soil has influence on climate and climate of soil. So also the microclimate will change completely. As the vegetation is gone, the climate, at least the microclimate, will change. And so all of these three main aspects which define a forest ecosystems are actually removed or changed. And that is the result what we face. Yeah, we see here some rest of the previous vegetation, and we see here some open cast mining activities in the background. So now there are three relevant environmental changes due to this form of land use. And this is, for example, the microclimate change, then steep slopes have been left, lack of soil, high soil clay contents, high erosion sediment rates, low soil fertility, emerging acid mine water, contaminated soil, and so on, and so on, and so on. And all these different aspects are tree relevant, means relevant to the trees and relevant for reclamation if we want to bring trees back to this former forest environment. Now, this is now a photo from a mining area, and we see easy to see. We see here in these trenches, we see there is a lack of soil. We see in the cracks here, it's a little bit dry. We see with the crack formation, we see there is a high clay content. And we see here erosion. So all these three factors, lack of soil, high clay content, and erosion, they all together create a tree hostile site, a site which is very difficult at that status, at that condition for trees. So how to achieve then relevant know-how in terms of trees, because we want to bring trees back to these sites. There is first the possibility of literature search that is incomplete and mostly not site relevant. Because of these very rare species in central Kalimantan, you hardly find any information in the internet. But of course, for others, eucalyptus and so, it is well documented. So the second possibility are tree species trials. So you plant them, observe them, but because they have a long life, these are long-term observations. We have to observe them 20 years, 30 years, 40 years. The question is, do we have time as such? The next possibility is research on tree species adaptation capacities. They are measurable, but this is expensive. So far more expensive, I guess, than these tree species trials and the literature search. So all of these possibilities have challenges. Here is an example which I have seen together with Tidi Yunanto, and we see here there's an overburden that's in Kalimantan. The overburden substrate is more than 50% clay. On top there is soil spraying, yes. And then we see here a tree, Paraserianthus falcataria. And if we only see the trees from outside, we would say, well done, it worked well. But you see here a cut because later they built a road through this place. And we see here that the root, which should penetrate deeply into the soil and into the overburden, is moving sidewards. So this means there is no stability because that is 30 centimeter, 40 centimeter. When there is a strong wind, a typhoon, not a typhoon, even a strong wind in the near future, then this tree will collapse because of lack of strong root system which is able to penetrate these soils. So what we need is then the tree species. This is now the same picture. We know, if we want to plant in open terrain, we need light demander. Yes, we know how to identify light demanders from local species. This technology is known. We have nitrogen fixing because often nitrogen is limiting. We know from Fabaceae that Fabaceae has microorganisms who can fix nitrogen. But what we did not see here, we did not consider the soil penetration force. It means the force of a tree species to penetrate clay soil, hard soil. And this is another trait which we have to consider and which we should do research on and to measure in order to find species who are light demander, nitrogen fixing, and soil penetration, and with higher soil penetration. So here we see a second example. Obviously, it looks very green and promising. And when we go a little bit closer, we see here on the leaves, on the edges, we see here nitrogen deficiency, obviously because there's a lack of nitrogen in the soil. And we can work on it. When we have analyzed this, we can, in the nursery, in the forest nursery, we can add some more nitrogen fertilizer, and then this problem can be solved. So which species now? Which species to plant? The most important decision when setting up a planting or a plantation project is a choice of the species. And we need to answer the following questions. What is the purpose of the future plantation? Which species are potentially available for the plantation? And which species could grow on the potential sites? And we have to find the purpose, to re-establish forest functions, for example, better air, better water quality, timber, habitat. So in Indonesia, I think that could be, it can be and could be achieved with the selection of local tree species and with more knowledge gathering with local tree species. Then the availability of the species. Should we take domestic trees? Should we use local flora from Kalimantan only, if we work in Kalimantan? Do we use exotic tree species, for example, from Australia or other continents? And for Indonesia, this could mean there is a more scientific focus on local tree species. And the next point is to observe the growth and survival. It means the adaptive capacity of trees to difficult conditions, to adverse conditions, in limited or in excess quantity. Means clay penetration, to find a way, the adaptive capacity, how much is a species able to penetrate clay or heavy soils, or how much is it able to colonize infertile soils, for example, with microorganisms. So, and if we have the species selected, if we have the species, or better, several species selected, then we are able to create so-called silvicultural systems. That is an easy one here on eucalyptus, the very most easy one. And we see here a time frame, then the planting and the felling, and these are the different steps for producing these trees to manage it. And these are the main questions to answer in the different stages. And don't forget, dear mining officers, dear mining engineers, the forestry sector are also engineers. So they also have to work with numbers and measurements and analysis to create the right species adaptation, the right environment. And there are two possibilities. One possibility for reclamation, there is a so-called agricultural approach. And I think this works very much at the moment. And this is only when fully familiar with the species behavior. Then with soil working, the soil working is adapted to these specific plants, for example, to eucalyptus or to sugarcane or whatever. So the agricultural engineers, they know exactly the plant, the crop plant, and modify the soil to adapt it to this crop plant in the upper 30 centimeter. The forestry approach is different. Why? Because we have here up to 200 centimeter tree rooting depths, and it's impossible to make soil working as deep. So we have to go the other way. We have to select tree species which are adaptive to the given soil conditions, which does not mean that we cannot modify somehow also the soil conditions. But we have to check and to measure on tree species for a soil frame. So here is a so-called proposed planning sequence. I know this is not at all the Indonesian way, and it's not away from elsewhere. It is just, we also have planning sequences for different land uses, for different forest land uses. And here is a try to adapt it to the reclamation, to the post-mining reclamation. And you see here, of course, that is normal everywhere to form the planning team and then to gather basic information, climate, soil. But then also we have a pre-mining landscape and forest inventory, and then a step 4, identification of tree species for post-mining reclamation. To identify these, not by name, to identify them by their adaptive capacity to what will be the result after the mine closure. And then I will not go into every point. That is just a draft idea here. But we see in post-mining there's a comparison of pre- and post-mining conditions, and then a threat analysis and a therapy. There is acid mine water or whatever. So we have to analyze it, and we have to find a therapy to make this to make this less severe, or to turn it into positive. And here we see environmental side factors. Yeah, we see here some planting here on the top. We see here some planting downwards. That is in Indonesia on the same side. And we have to face several points. We have to save what actually is here, and I mean very specifically here in this company. That is light, of course, light, because it has to be a tree species which is a light demander, which can grow in open light. Some tree species only are able to achieve this, to do this. We cannot plant shade bearers for this. So then further we have seen on the yellow spot on these leaves, we have nitrogen deficiency. And we have ground compactness, we have seen this. And also we have steep terrain and erosion. So we should find species, species for this specific company, which are light demanders, which are able to fix nitrogen, which are strong enough to go through the ground, and which also are able with a rooting system to prevent erosion. And I have here a small outlook. These are just general ideas, and I like to discuss so much with you, especially with the engineers from mining and from forestry together. We need a current awareness service. Current awareness means if there is a problem somehow, please, in this company A or in this company Z, please phone and try to solve this. Try to address it. Say we have a problem with this, so that people know it, and not that every single mining company keeps it for themselves and try to find a solution themselves. This will be very difficult and not possible. So an awareness service that can be a mixed group of mining engineers and forestry engineers. Then to have open-minded solution finding, not to hide anything. No, why? Because not everything we are responsible. Some things come and go and we don't know the reason. So we should address the problems and say open-minded, openly discussing it. It's not to blame anyone, it's to find solutions. The next is trans-sector and international knowledge exchange and cooperation. Trans-sector means agriculture, forestry, mining, environmental sciences, whatever is physics, chemistry, whatever there is, come together and discuss these topics, for problem solution. And if possible, also bring this in an international context, because there are more chances to find a solution. Then it's also incentives for researchers and practitioners. It means when you have excellent research groups in Indonesia, I know them personally. So why not that the mining sector is giving incentives for them? They see here we have a problem, and here you have the chance to get funding for the solution of this problem. And last and not least, of course, investment in know-how. Know-how is not for free. Know-how is expensive, but know-how also may save a lot of expenses, and we cannot afford to continue letting landscapes over and over and over accumulating and don't find solutions. And thank you very much for your audience, and I'm looking forward for a discussion.
Okay, thank you, Pak Rab, for your presentation. If I make some point from Pak Rab's presentation, so there are triangle dependencies related to the ecosystem. In here, forest ecosystem, there are climate, soil, and vegetation. So it is important to do the species trial to know about the adaptation of the right species in the main reclamation. And I think Para proposed that to select the right species is based on the mining company, mining company. So now we continue to the third speaker. So third speaker is Pak Iskandar Julkainan Siregar. He is a professor at the Department of Silviculture, Faculty of Forestry, IPB University, and also he is the International Program Director of IPB University. So his expertise is genetic population, tree improvement, and also forest adaptation. So Pak Iskandar, you have time maximum 20 minutes. But before, I would like to remind all the participants, you can give the question in the Q&A column. So after all the presenter presenting the presentation, we will read your question. So Pak Iskandar, you may start your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Dr. Teddy. Can you hear me and see my screen?
Yes, Pak Iskandar.
Okay. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon and good morning, Guten Morgen, Germany. So it is my honor to be here together with the experts, national and international, to share on this webinar. So first of all, I would like to thanks to the Agency for Human Resource Development of the Ministry of Energy and Mineral Resources inviting us through Bandung Polytechnic of Energy and Mining, or we call it PAP. My contribution today is a bit specific. Thank you, Prof. Mitloner, who already elaborated a little bit on the species selection. So we will not go further on it, but this specific topic, not too specific, but maybe of great importance, and the entitled Genetic Consideration on Ex-Mine Reclamation. I am invited because almost more than 10 years become one of the independent evaluator for the environmental performance of stewardship of some mining company in Indonesia. So a lot of travel to be made from Sumatra, Kalimantan, Nusa Tenggara, etc. So I would like to pick one of the SDGs, I think. Thank you also from Germany, who introduced actually the term of nachhaltig, or we call it sustainable. So now we all agree to adopt this concept, this agenda. There are around 17 agenda, and number 15 is life on land, which is very relevant to our topic today. So on this SDGs number 15, if you look at my observation on the research, so there are more than 120,000 articles has been produced, indexed in the Scopus database, and the trend is like that one, that the issue on land use, issue forest also with the bigger letters, land cover, landscape, ecosystem service, land use change, biodiversity. So I would like to forward to encourage also our colleagues from the mine engineers to understand more the issue of biodiversity, ecosystem service, as has been also described by Professor Mitloner. So we are all engineers. Back to the Indonesian situation. I think this is approximately the Indonesian forest area status. So we have here the total is 120 million hectares of forest divided into different land cover. It's primary forest, secondary forest, or plantation forest, and also non-forested area. And then there is one quite big area on non-forest area. We call it APL, area penggunaan lain. So around 67.4 million hectares. So in this case, the mining industry also engaged in one of the APL area. And while doing business, I think the sustainability aspect have become the core of the activities, including environmental management. When I look to the strategic plan of the Ministry of Environment and Forestry 2015-2019, there is a direction toward the sustainable development with the main challenge, as I written here, how to secure that any space or area allocated for development will not degrade the biodiversity. In this case, the population, yeah, of different biodiversities, and also the value of the biodiversity. That is the summary from the strategic plan 2015 and 2019, which is already passed. And for 2019 to 2024, I think the next 5 years, I could sum up the mine directive towards the sustainable environment. Again, back to the environment, because Ministry of Environment and Forestry before is separated. Now they are merged to become one ministry. The mine directives are policy development for integrated land use management. So this is one map policy. So map of the mining and forestry should be very clear and clean, yeah, not clean and dirt, but clear and clean. And then the second one is addressing climate change mitigation. Yeah, in this case is maybe forest fire and pit conservation. Pak Jatmiko also already mentioned about the use different kind strategy to mitigate the climate change, impact of the climate change. And the third one is law enforcement and environment rehabilitation. So pollution becoming an issue, and then watershed area. Of course, relating to our topic today is the last one, so environmental rehabilitation, which is, of course, there are potential value. The causes has been also described shortly by Professor Mitloner. So when we back to the bit theoretical of this one, because among us there are students also from Polytechnic of Energy and Mining Bandung. So there is term with the so-called ecological threshold of tipping point. So when we see this one, the comparing between the degraded and non-degraded status, yeah, left and right. So we can have look one point where degradation become very fast, yeah. And usually this is happening in the mining area. So the company trying to reclaim, yeah, to become normal again. The consideration are what? We can see there are three environment. Professor Mitloner also already shown the triangle interdependency, yeah? Environmental process, biodiversity. In this case, if when there is a humans, also important as a factor to be considered in X mine. So this is very another figure, yeah. So when we're talking about the stand productivity, of course, we want to have more productive X mine reclamation. We have to consider, as been mentioned also before, about the soil, and then climate as well, and as well as diversity. So I would like to discuss about this biodiversity aspect in our in my talk today regarding the species and the genetics consideration. And of course, every company has their own capacity with respect to the management and technology. So many companies try their best to do a reclamation process following the guidelines. If we're talking about the biodiversity with respect to genetics, we can see how much their contribution. So when we see this as genetics, contribution can be as much as 30%, but also when they interact with the environment can be 25 to 60%. So it's very important to be considered when you are doing the X-mine reclamation. This is I took one example from, I think as already mentioned by Pak Jatmiko LC, Newman Nusa Tenggara 2012. I was there. This is showing a company which is very good capacity in terms of management and technology. And they are also very lucky because the mining area was surrounded by very nice forest. So success probability is very high. Yeah, this is an example what we can see from one of the company in Nusa Tenggara. So there are three issues. Yeah, if we want to do a reclamation, revegetation, restoration, you name it, we need to consider about the productivity. We need to consider about the adaptability, and also we need to consider about the biodiversity level that we want to do. So this is a contribution from the previous literature. We cannot, the maximum growth potential of plantation is seldom achieved, yeah, because a lot of limiting factor. So limiting factor has been discussed by Professor Mitloner, where the soil is very hard to be penetrated, for example. So we can use the very nice planting stock, but when the soil is not very well managed, then the growth also will be not optimum. The third one regarding the biodiversity, in our reclamation, we might also introduce the so-called agroforestry. So not only big trees are being planted, but also in combination with other crops, yeah, with other cash crop. For example, in this case, you can put the coffee. It has been mentioned also before, the oil palm by Pak Jatmiko. So we need to secure the biodiversity in our plantation to maintain the ecosystem service. This is our research in Jambi. What the status of biodiversity in different land use, for example, from the forest, from the jungle rubber, from rubber plantation, from oil palm. Unfortunately, we don't have yet a sample from forest plantation and also X-mine plantation. So we see different kind of ecosystem function here, from nutrient retention, carbon storage, the beautiness or the naturalness, the local biodiversity, the genetic diversity, stability for climatic condition, and soil process are considered that our land use is ecosystem service. In 19 last year, I think last year has been very good year, I think, for foresters or people working on the revegetation, that UN has declared, yeah, last year regarding the ecosystem restoration. So this declaration, I think, very good for us, bringing back again the spirit of our work toward the ecosystem restoration, which can offer, yeah, not only for job creation, but also possible food security and addressing climate change. From the definition, we can see that basically ecosystem restoration is to regain their ecological function. Yeah, the functionality I've been discussed before with different land use, from old forest to the oil palm plantation. And basically, this can be done by allowing the natural regeneration of overexploited ecosystem, for example, by planting the trees. Yeah, planting the trees is very important. So, however, again, the landscape restoration or forest landscape restoration or X-mine restoration have a challenge. Yeah, from the data of the very large survey published recently, that from let's say 139 forest landscape restoration, around 40% of the seed sources are coming from a fragmented population, meaning that the genetic background or genetic basis of the seedlings are very narrow. And then from the survey also, we found they found also that the repeated restoration, so restoring the same site again because of the failure. Of course, these two conditions are not good because it can cause delays and increasing project costs. And above all, constraining the achievement of the restoration objectives, creating job, for example, securing food security, as well as climate change. That's why when we are talking about the genetic consideration, if we already got the very nice species of selection, the securing the diverse tree seeds, the mother trees, yeah, where the seedlings or seeds are coming, need to be done, yeah. Clear origin of seed sources, make sure, and the future use of the selected tree seeds. If the mining site is well surrounded with good natural forests, check the native pioneers, local species, and local long rotation species or climate tree species. If the mining site lacks of local seed sources, procuring seeds from the reliable sources within the similar ecological zones or certified seed sources by the Ministry of Forestry. This is an example where to restore reliable planting stock. I would like to show the two important species which is very important for Indonesia, Meranti, and also, for example, Ulin. So a lot of companies want to do the enrichment planting after the first planting with the light demanding tree species, like has been mentioned, for example, Paracereanthus falcataria. After reaching the certain age, the company want to enrich with local species. So to be noted also, to be mentioned also the importance the conservation area of Indonesia. We are very large area, and there are different kind of national park. Here you can see, and this can be used as reference if you want to source the reliable planting stock for different kind of local species in Indonesia. Of course, there is a Wallacea region which is have a different kind of major or important tree species. This I would like to show our research on the Meranti, where to find the good seedling by using the genetic marker. I mean not the good seedling, but the center of diversity. From our research in Sumatra and Kalimantan, in this case it with the Sorea leprosula or Meranti merah, we found that the genetic diversity for Sorea leprosula is located in ex-Asia Law concession. Now is being managed by PT Restorasi Ekosistem Indonesia. So there are forests around 100,000 hectares, which also Sorea can be found there, and we can go to collect the seedlings from these sites for whole Sumatra, for example. So then we do another study with genetic diversity for Sorea parvifolia, another red Meranti. We found also that still in Asia Log in Jambi province and also in East Kalimantan province, the two are a place where the genetic diversity are abundant, meaning they have a very nice mix of the genetic type, which can be used for future conservation and utilization. So we found that still, I think the PT Itsi Karya Utama managed in Kalimantan Timur, but now Asia Log already changed by PT Restorasi Ekosistem. This is an example to company which can be potential place for in situ conservation and also utilization of seed from these two companies. Why this is happening? The genetic type, we conduct a kind of simulation in the past and until now. So the mixing between Sumatra and Kalimantan genetic type is happening, yeah, in these two provinces. In Sumatra is Jambi. Here is around here. It's also East Kalimantan, yeah, in PT Itsi, yeah. So Bangka Belitung is becoming a bridge, yeah, during the landmass in the past, yeah. That this place is when we consider the evolution of the species could be as our potential seed sources. Within the Kalimantan, we're also doing research on Sorea johorensis, which is also very important. A lot of being planted by the IUPHHK or HPH. So we also There are 3 places in East Kalimantan, Central SBK, and then West Kalimantan. So we found also that a place where Meranti can be found. Yeah, in this case we would recommend like a place when Sari Bumi Kusuma plantation can be sources later for our planting stock procurement. This is I think my last slide about the practical implication. If we found already using our genetic tools, then we can do practically delineate the seed sources or seed stand, whatever the condition there, where the desired genetic background is known. Yeah, in Jambi, Petereki, for future production of large quantity of reproductive material, especially Meranti or Dipterocarpaceae has every 5-6 year mass fruiting season. So a lot of fruits there. So we have to collect it as soon as possible when it happens. And then distribute the material to as many as restoration sites in Sumatra, for example, in Jambi, and from Kalimantan Timur for restoration site in Kalimantan Timur, and try to integrate with the existing land use. In this case is mining revegetation site or biodiversity enrichment plantation. As a closing, science-based X-mining, I think, should be considered as the main objective, and we try to link it with the ongoing good practice or new practice or best practice, yeah, to increase the level of productivity, not only productivity but also ecological function and also biodiversity level. These are 3 keywords that students from PEP need to be considered, yeah, to be noted. And then species selection and sourcing of plant reproductive material should be planned well based on the background of the genetic information. In this case is the origin, very important, where coming from our planting stock, and also the number of seed trees, yeah, just not getting the seed from 1 or 2 trees, yeah, for doing reclamation in our site for securing, in this case, future adaptation. Thank you very much, Pak Teddy. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Pak Iskandar, for your presentation. If I make some point from Pak Iskandar presentation, so in the reclamation program, it is important to consider the biodiversity because it is maintaining the ecosystem service. So that's why it is important to define the genetic information of the certain species. So I think Pak Iskandar also mentioning about some of the Meranti species, yeah, Sorea leprosula, Sorea partifolia, Sorea jorensis. I think this all Meranti already planted by some of the mining company in Indonesia. Okay, next we are going to the last speaker. The last speaker is Dr. Sun Baek Bang. He is from the Reclamation Corporation Korea. His expertise is about the environmental engineering, and he is graduate from the USA for the master and for the PhD. So Dr. Bang, you have 20 minutes for the presentation, and you may start your presentation. Mr. Bang, you can start your presentation.
Please unmute the speaker.
We cannot hear your voice. Unmute first. Unmute. In the bottom, the left side.
Yes, I did. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Teddy. This is an honor to be invited to give a talk in international webinar on X-Mind reclamation. So today I want to talk about the successful model of mine reclamation program. So I'm from Mireco. So before start my presentation first I want to introduce the Mireco. Mireco is a specialized Korean government agency on mine reclamation. So government first make a coal industry rationalization board and in 1987, And then this board operates the program for providing support to coal mine in accordance with the agreement between government and inefficient mines. So that time is during the 1988 is there are 347 coal mines in Korea. But after this agreement, the government reduced the number of coal mines to 5. After that is a government to make a special law for the mine damage prevention and restoration law. And then based on that, Mireco was established to manage mine reclamation in exit mines. So before we make the Mireco, the government had like a struggling. So before make a Mireco, the 3 ministries take care of the ex-mine site, especially the Ministry of Environment, and the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy, and the Ministry of Food, Agriculture, Forestry and Fishery. So that reason is this one make like inefficiency and is as a unification by overall of the load. So that reason is the government make agreement, and then finally the Ministry of Trade, Industry and Energy take care of the all environmental problem in X mine. So after that is Mireco is take care of the waste rock and AMD tailing, and then ground subsidence, the waste facility, reforestation, and then soil remediation. So this is now it was very complicated, but because of the Mireco, we make one management. So this is the main activity of Mireco. First, we are doing mine reclamation, is prevention and reclamation of mine hazard, and then coal industry support. We give some funding to the closing coal mine, supporting, and then also support the coal price stabilization. And then third activity is regional development in mine area. So the problem is in Korea is after mine close, a lot of labor left the mine site. So that reason is a lot of people is had a problem. They have no income there. So that reason is government is make a loan to new industry established in X mine area. So we we provide a very low interest loan to the other company. They want to establish the company in mine area. So also the Mireco doing that activity. We investigate investing their cooperation for ex-mine regions. So we develop some we make a resort, and then we hire the local people, and then this is also we are doing. So later I'm going to explain, and then develop month of technology and cooperation. So we developing the mine reclamation technologies for regarding the AMD and then soil remediation, and then forestry rehabilitation also. So this is a relationship between GNI and petitions. So this is in Korea. This is a GNI, the US dollar per capita in Korea. So in the beginning is the people doesn't concern about the environment, and then after that is our GNI increased the small appearance of the civil petitions and the rising civil petition and the peak of civil petitions. So this is like a complaint from the local people. So they really think about the environment, and they really think about the contamination, the pollution. And then before, I think we only concern the local government take care of that. But after that is after 1988, the central government manages the whole mine activity. And then 2006, after that is a Mireco take care of the all mine reclamation work. So this is a summary of that. This one is this is a Korean case. The low GNI development is a priority. Then the environmental protection. So our GNI was 1,000. Our development circumstance very good. Very good means is we are not concerned. Very good aspect of the minor. So we didn't concern too much about the environment. And then with increasing, we have to do mining environmental management right now. And then it's not economical condition. So that's the reason we are close a lot of coal mine in Korea. And then also with the GNI increase, more strict regulation comes up. So that's the reason, that time, now our GNI was 1,000. There is no regulation, but now very special law. So it's very strict. So that means that they have to mine company have to put more money to the other environment. So their income is decreased. So this is the situation. This is a mining industry developing step, the only revenue maximizing and then efficiency. Efficiency is like a technology and then process are important in mine development. And then next step is step 3 is effective mining. Is integrating engineering and science and social science and the mining region. And then third step, but the step 4 is sustainable mining, sustainable development in economy, environmental, and then social aspect. So in Korea, we are doing sustainable like mining in this stage. So this one is show the gradual trend in mine management. In here, if this gray solid line show the eco-friendly mine, and then the red dot line is mine without mining environmental management. So in the beginning, before production, they invested little money, but they earn a lot of money during the production after closing, and then they have to cost a lot for that. So this is main. Just mine with the mining without mining environmental management. But if you see the solid line, if you spend more money in the beginning before production, and then during the production also your cash flow is lower than the red dot line. But after closing, you spend very little money. So overall, if you see the the eco-friendly mine is save a lot of money. So this is it really is bring the economy benefit to the mine company. Because one of the reasons is that in Korea we have like 5,000 abandoned mine. So during the Japanese is a colony period. That time is Japan developed a lot of mine, and then they left, and then they went back to their country. So that's the reason now we didn't spend a lot of money. We have to Korean government have to spend a lot of money for this part after closing. So that's the reason we spend a lot of money for the mine reclamation in Korea. So now our budget for Miracle for the only mine reclamation we spend is 80 million US dollar every year. We doing the mine reclamation, but we did for more than I think is around 20 years, but we couldn't solve the problem. So that one is I think is a good example I think for the Korea, but the Indonesia I think you manage very well. I think so you are not spending a lot of money end of that. So this is a case of the Korean case. So mine reclamation part is like AMD treatment, and then forest rehabilitation, and then tailing tank management. This one related to the other tailing, and then soil remediation, and then ground subsidence management. Because most of Korea is like a gold mine, is like an underground mine, like Antan Pongkor is a gold mine. So that's the reason is we found a lot of ground subsidence. And then we are doing another part is like a development of X mine area. we have Gangwon land, this hotel and casino, condominium, and then ski, golf. Now we have a water park in here. So this one was like an coal mine. So the government is trying to build this resort in X mine area, and then promote this X mine area, regions. So we hire a lot of local people. Mainly we hire a lot of local people, and then we can keep this city. This is a subsidiary as companies. So we have a lot of, I mentioned that we have 5,000 mines. So this is a Black Belly. This is another area. We made this golf range. And then here is another resort. And then also here is a resort. We made a lot of resort in Korea. So this one is, I mentioned, the loan to new industry established in X mine area. So they built their factory, and then we provide this very low interest loan to the company. This is a case study. This is a Gahak mine cave. This one is very close to Seoul metropolitan. So if you see the map, it's only 20 kilometers. So this is now the best the site spot in Seoul metro area. So now is a lot of people came here. It was like a metal mine, and then this is underground mine. But the advantage of underground mine is that during the winter is very it's warm inside, and then during the summertime it's very hot and very cold inside. So that's the reason during the summer a lot of people also come. During the winter also a lot of people come, and then also they provide the concert. You see the pictures. And then inside there is a restaurant, and then some winery storage, and then also there are a lot of things there. So they are doing periodically, the city is operating this, actually this mine, and then mine cave, and then they provide the concert. Also, this is another case study. This is also the X mine area. You see the left, this is before, like after X mine. After that, we did like a forest rehabilitation, and then we built a museum here. This is a coal museum. So it's a lot of people come here and then see. And then also we make like a movie set, a drama set. So it's a lot of drama, they came here and then they just doing the movie and drama in here. This is another case study in Africa country, is Zambia. Is 2 weeks ago I've been there. This is I made a lot of section. This is a whole area is around 500 hectares. Is contaminated by lead. This middle of that one grid is like a tailing dam. Tailing, not dam, but tailing. They just pile there. So there on as a high wind here. So wind, and that's the reason a lot of the dust tailing is moving to the other residential area. This is all residential area. So this is each section has approximately around 0.5 hectare. So each 5 hectare, I took one sample and then I analyze it. This is a result. So is nearby the other tailing. So a lot of the lead contamination. The lead mean is lead concentration is 2,000 milligram per kilogram. Is 2,000 ppm. You see here is a lot of contamination in both sides in here. So and also this is another sampling in the canal sediment sampling point. We took a sample here, here. This is a canal here, and then a previous tailing was here. I hope you can see. This is a result of a canal sediment sampling concentration. Lead, lead concentration is very high. The USA standard is 400, but here is like one or approximately 1 or 2% of lead is contaminated in this sediment. So this is a real problem in here. So the Miracle is trying to investigate the site, and then we gonna suggest the treatment technology to the Zambian government, and then also we gonna make some design for that, basic design. And so this is our consulting work. This is actually the World Bank project. So we are conducting in Zambia. This one is I conduct the project from 2015 to 2017. So I stayed in Indonesia actually 3 years, and in Bandung actually I lived in Geger Karong. So I'm very this is Tasik Malaya. This is West Java. This is a copper mine. So this is a show the like open pit, and then there's a dumping area, and then we saw the dumping area also. This dumping is a tailing going to the river. This is a situation in Indonesia. This is a picture for that. So this is a sampling point for the water samples, and this is some point has it's okay, but except the one point, the arsenic is 41 ppm. It's a very high concentration, and then sulfate is very high. That means is they provide a lot. Also, their pH is very low. That means is this mine generate a lot of acid mine drainage. And then also the sampling point for soil samples. And then we took some tailing and then some area. So here the arsenic also concentration is very high. And then the copper also exceed the USA standard. Then except only 2 is a contamination, you found it. So one of the problem is that is in Indonesia, Zambia case, they have they don't have actually the standard for soil contamination by heavy metals. So that's the reason it's they contaminated this one for more than 100 years, but they have no regulation. So they just live there. And then also there are people suffering from the lead right now because the lead is poisoning for the children. They took the blood sample, they checked the lead concentration is very, very high. The high lead concentration is effective to the nervous system in children. So that is a big the problem over there. But I think this one is a little bit same thing here, I think in Indonesia, because Indonesia has no standard for the soil samples, soil, So that's the reason, you are not controlled by, you're not concerned about too much about the heavy metals. So this is a different situation in Korea and like Indonesia. So this one is I want to, it's almost finished, right? 1 minute, 2 minutes?
Maximum 5 minutes, Dr.
7.5 is okay?
Yeah, 5 minutes, 5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay. So this is a forest rehabilitation. This one is I conducted it from the 2015 to 2017 in East Kalimantan, nearby Balikpapan area. So this one is like a pilot scale test. So this one is approximately the 5 hectare. So it was before like that, and then we make we made like a trench. So we think the main problem is like erosion. I think we guess, we made the assumption for that, like if you make a trench, that one it may be reduce the erosion of the soil, topsoil. So this is our assumption, and then we made this kind of field demonstration. And then this is a main drainage. You can see the other blue one. This is a drainage. You can see. Yeah. Then plantation. And then during that, we did like a site survey and the pilot test for cover crop also. And then we investigate the other cover crop and tree. This is like a step for the earthwork. And then we put there some topsoil. And then is a cutting and then is compacting. After mark, and then we made like a trench. And then also we made a dike, is the dam, to prevent the other water from the hill. And then we just put the waterproof sheet, so to protect the other trench. And then we using pin to fix. And then this plantation and then seeding and then composting. This is a show. It was like August 2016, you can see. And then this is November 16, and then July 2017. So you can see the big difference. And then this is in November 2017. And then this is last year, March. You see the big difference. So we made a conclusion from that, like if you make a trench, that one is really protect the other erosion. So this is a little bit costly, but we make a very good, like a forest like this. Then this is December, this is March 2019, last year, you see. And then also another field demonstration is treat AMD. So this is acid mine drainage. This we apply the passive system. Passive system is we don't need like any electric power. So that's the reason we using SAPs. We just using gravity to treat it. So it's a pond water and then this going to the compost and then limestone. The limestone increase the pH and then going to the wetland. This is our system, is a principle. And so I did like a column test and then also drawing and then we made the construction. So we made the SAPs. SAPs is a successive alkalinity producing system. This one. So this is a show the passive treatment system, the excavation, waterproof sheet is we put the pipe and then inlet pipe, substrate, we put it there is a composite and then we put the limestone composite and then this is we put the input pipe. And then this is settling pond. We can lead over all the drainage and then we make like this. This is wetland too. So this one is show the December 2016 is like that. It's like a before construction. And then this is February 2017 is progressing. And then June 2017 is we finish almost the facility. And then this is like end of 2018. This is a collecting well and then going to collecting well, going to the SAPS system and then going to this water going to the settling pond and then going to settling pond 2 and then going to wetland and then this is the exit. So this is the last year picture. Here is I show here. So now is a big difference. So this is this one is like we cannot distinguish this one. Now is a forest like that. Yeah, this is we conduct in Indonesia. Yeah, thank you very much for your cooperation and the attention. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bang, for your presentation. If I make some point from Mr. Bang presentation, so Miracle is an agency from the South Korea which have expertise in the mine reclamation, both
yes.
vegetation and non-vegetation. according to the presentation, we can see some example for the main closure program. You can see about the museum, hotel, casino. I think I have been there 3 times, Mr. Bang. And Mereco already have a project with Indonesia, I think starting to 2014, I think, Mr.
Yes,
Bang.
right. Actually, 2014, yes.
Yeah, it is the location is in Tasikmalaya, West Java, and also in East Kalimantan near Balikpapan.
Yes,
So,
yeah.
So all the speakers already presenting their presentation. Now we continue to the discussion. So we have approximately 30 minutes for the discussion. I will read the question. So first question, I think, is addressed to Pak Sujatmiko. Pak Sujatmiko, it is coming from Rudy Subarudi. The question is it possible to use one regulation for mine reclamation, both in forest area and non-forest area? This Pak Sujatmiko.
Dimungkinkan, Pak. Can be. We have one regulation regarding reclamation in mine area. I mean, in forest area. So in this regard, we will coordinate intensively with our colleague from Ministry of Environment and Forestry, mainly with Pak Prof. Sigit, I think, Director General Planologi and BPDAS.
Okay, thank you, Pak Sujatmiko. So the first question is already answered by Pak Sujatmiko. And now we continue to the second question. It is from Alam Ramdhani. I think this question addressed to Pak Iskandar. How a simple plan for reclamation of quarry mining, Pak Iskandar?
Yeah, we should, thank you, Pak Teddy. Thank you for the question. I think when we are talking about reclamation, it is complex. Yeah? So we are dealing with the complexity. So complexity in terms of the sites, yeah, has been mentioned before by the previous speaker. Complexity on which species to be planted in this one. Simplifying the plan is possible if we do already have a similar best practice somewhere else. Yeah. So we take the lesson learned from this previous projects. Yeah. In this case, it's quarry mining. So that's why we need to, as mentioned by Professor Mitloner, that we need to try to search different type of knowledge products available for reclamation. Yeah, the knowledge is can be explicitly in the literature, document, etc., or the knowledge also can be implicit, tacit knowledge in someone who is very well experienced with different kind of cases. So that's why searching the, let's say, good practice, best practice is very important if you want to make a very nice plan. Thank you, Pak Teddy.
Okay, thank you, Pak Iskandar, for your answer. So the next question is still from the Pak Alam Ramdhani, but I think this question addressed to Mr. Bang. So the question is, what is the hydrology studies method for reclamation planning? What is the hydrology studies?
What kind of hydrologic study?
Yeah, hydrology.
Hydrology is actually we have to do like a monitoring of the well. We should dig the well, and then we have to do the hydraulic. But we couldn't do that, you know, in Indonesia case. So that's the reason is we just take the other sample from the other surface, and then also the other some groundwater. So. And then we didn't do, but in Korea, we are doing that one. So we have to make a dig well, and then we extract, and then we also check the other hydraulic, you know.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bang. So the next question is for Pak Rap. This question from Bu Rina Kristanti. She is from Ministry of Environmental and Forestry. So Pak Rab, the question is, how does Germany manage its ex-open pit mine area using German existing regulation? How do you perceive the regulation in Indonesia as it is described before? Unfortunately, I only have opportunity to check on underground mine area in Bottrop tetrahedron at that time, and no chance to learn about the reclamation scheme in the open pit one. Thank you.
So we have research institutions very close to the big open cast mining areas, and we have coal mining as well, open cast coal mining, and we have institutions which have been founded, and their only work, their exclusive work, is on mining and on mining reclamation. So we have institutions, and usually they employ soil scientists, geologists, and foresters, and maybe also from other sectors to work jointly for problem solution. Yeah, that is, and of course they have a lot of international contacts and can contact the different universities in Germany for certain cooperation, but they focus on solving the problem of open cast mining in terms of rehabilitation and other aspects. So I don't know the structure well enough in Indonesia, but what I realize is that it is a certain, you are very aware of the challenge, and I think you are very stepping forward very strong now, because maybe it happens the same what happened here. So the public audience, you know, the population, they are not happy if huge land areas are left unfinished, are left open, and environmental issues are getting more and more more and more attention. And so we are all forced, we scientists and the governments and whoever is really forced, and the companies of course are forced to find a solution. Yeah. And and that is why we have to work together, we have to jointly work. And when you follow our colleague Bang from Korea and in Indonesia and in Germany, you see there are so many things in common. So many things in common, and we not exploited yet to bring these different experiences together. So I'm very happy, Dr. Tedi, that you, for your initiative to start with such an exchange of knowledge and experiences. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Pak Rab. Okay, I will read for the next question. It is coming from Wahyu Gilang Ramadan. So the question is addressed to Pak Sujatmiko. His question is, does the reclamation still need to be done in mining with type C of excavation? Because we know that there are still many people who mine in area close to where people live and do not use such a large land. It is the reclamation in the Galian C, Pak Sujatmiko. It is needed. They conduct the reclamation, something like that.
Yeah, actually, reclamation is part of the mining operation. No matter the operator is people or corporation or even the multinational company. So in this regard, for the guidance for stone and non-metallic mine, the government will give the local government to manage and to enforce the reclamation obligations. For the people mining in izin pertama rakyat, the minister will provide the guidance, technical guidance, and then provide the proper area for people to do mining. And then in this regard, the government will guide them since beginning, preparing the FS and then environmental impact assessment, and then also the reclamation plan and the monitoring and bimbingan, ya, supervision of the reclamation activity. Itu, Pak.
Oke, Okay, thank you, Pak Sujatmiko, for the answer. So now for the next question is coming from Bu Eka Noprianti. I think she is from Ministry of Forestry. The question is for Pak Iskandar. Should the genetic consideration in tree species selection defined as only species found previously pre-mining in the area could be selected in the reclamation program, or could we select more suitable species for the current condition of the area in the biodiversity point of view? It's the question from Ibu Eka Noprianti. Pak Iskandar, we cannot hear your voice. You still unmuted.
Okay, thank you. Sorry, Pak Dedi. Thank you, Bu Eka Novianti, for your question. Of course, selecting the local tree species first is very prioritized. Yeah. So let's say your ex-mining area is nearby the existing forest. That is good one. So you can select the tree species. Yeah. And please, if time permits or resources are available, also try to mix different kind of species of interest. Yeah. Yeah. And then this should be aligned with the objective of the future mining closure as well. So in our experience, when we starting our enrichment planting, we could start with the 6 species, for example, yeah? And then try do combination. So you're planting 1 species, you're planting 2 species in 1 plot, 3 species, different kind of combination to find the best way, the adaptive one, meeting the needs of the future mining closure. It could be for timber production. It could be for non-timber production as well. It could be for fruit, non-timber, meaning you can produce fruit, latex, everything. Yeah, you should consider them. Yeah, the more, of course, the better. Yeah, the more species is the better, but there is a certain number of species. So please, yeah, 6 species, if they grow well, very good. I mean, for different kind of purposes, yeah, timber and non-timber products. Thank you, Pak Dedi.
Okay, thank you, Pak Iskandar, for your answer. So the next question is for Pak Ralph. The question is coming from Ibu Dida Samsuwida. I think she is from the Ministry of Forestry. Pak Ralph, what do you think about the possibility to involve the people surrounding the ex-mine site in doing reclamation activities?
Yeah, that is very essential, because the local people are these one where I would expect have the brightest knowledge on the species, on the local species in their surrounding. And also they can show their interest of what they would have after mining closure. And we should not forget there are people on a piece of land, there's a forest, and then the mining operation takes part, and these people lose their influence, their management of this area. And I find that these people then also should have a very strong voice to decide or to recommend what should happen, what land use should happen afterwards. So, and that is one point. And the second point, again, these people, these local people, yeah, for example, in Kalimantan, some people of Dayak, for example, they really know the forest. Nobody knows them better. So it would be a big mistake to oversee them and to oversee their experience. Yeah. So it's really my recommendation, always include the local people. Thank you very much for that question.
Okay, thank you, Pak Ralph. I think Bu Dida, all mining company in Indonesia already involved the local people to do some reclamation, especially in the revegetation. So the next question for Mr. Bang. how we can do, it is the question from Risma Nuti. So the question is how we can do reclamation with cheap budget, maybe according to the experience from Mireco. How we can do reclamation with cheap budget?
Yeah, it's very typical. Yeah, so depend on the cost-effective technology. So AMD is that we mentioned the passive treatment facility. This is a cheap price. I think we can use it. So, but as I spend approximately is around $800,000, $900,000. I spent that, but make the pilot test. But the capacity is around 300 ton per day. So this is a capacity. So you can imagine. But the maybe we can reduce the cost because this one is we have no idea. We collect all the material from Indonesia. So also I'm foreigner. I bought very expensive material compared to the Indonesian. So maybe we can cost down that, I hope. So this is a cost for the AMD treatment, but the pH is too high, too low. I mean, pH is like 3 or 4. We cannot apply the passive treatment. So if we that way is we have to use an active treatment. That one is very costly. So we have to build the facility, and then also we inject the chemical continuously, very costly. So that one will be, but most of the other like pit lake, the pH is very low, you know that. So is I think only the passive treatment, only you can apply the pH is more than 4 like that, you can apply. So this is a cheap price. For regarding the soil, I think soil is you have no problem because you have no regulation for the heavy metals, especially. So, but in Korea, in Zambia, I think the most cheapest way for the remediation is we are trying to suggest. I'm gonna show you. I didn't provide the here. See, I'm gonna share the like one thing here. Yeah. So this is from that is also the Zambian. They have like a World Bank loan project. So also they suggest me the cost-effective technology for the soil remediation. So it was very tough. So we conduct the trench analysis for the soil contaminated area. So we make a trench, and then we just 1 meter and 2 meter depths with the excavator. And then I brought the XRF, and then I measure with the XRF. And then we found out the depths of the contaminated soil. So we calculate the volume of that. But this area is huge. So it's more than 1 meter is contaminated. So we cannot take out. We cannot take all of them. So we are trying to, the plan is like we want to take out the around 30 centimeters of soil. And then we add some like stabilization zone. So like we just add like limestone, and then we add some like iron ash, and then we can add like a core ash, and then we make like a layer, and then we just cover the like a clean soil. So this is, I think, is one of the cheapest way. And then also this area also is contaminated. It's more than 400. Is a dark yellow, show the contamination of the land. And then also we check the depth of the contaminant, and then only the 20 centimeter is a contaminated. So in the yellow areas, we want to get rid of the top soil. So that is, I think, the cheapest way. So, and that this is, we're gonna apply that. Yeah, so I think is if you have any question, and then please send the email to me, and then I will give you more information. And then also I'm gonna leave my phone number, and then we can talk more.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bang, for your explanation. Just for your information, Mr. Bang, actually, if the mining company want to conduct reclamation in Indonesia, so the cost is approximately maybe Farisa can explain more about maybe more than 30 or 40 million Indonesian rupiah per hectare. It is correct, Bu Farisa? For the
maybe more now, yeah. Maybe it can be more now.
Okay.
5 million.
Yeah,
5
more
million.
than 40 million Indonesian rupiah.
14 million, okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
per hectare.
Hectare.
Yeah, per hectare. Just for your information.
Okay, yeah.
So I will go to next question. It is coming from Pak Irdika Mansur. The question is for Pak Ralph. I hope you know Pak Irdika Mansur. He is Pak Iskandar College from IPB University. So Pak Ralph, many people think that mining is conducted in virgin good primary forests that make them concerned about the destruction of the forest. In fact, many mining companies are operating outside forests or degraded forests. Good reclamation programs have been able to return precious local tree species such as ebony, Dipterocarps family, ironwood, rosewood, etc. Learning from my experience doing research on mine reclamation, I believe that we can build good plantation forests or of local species on ex-mine site. We need the support of regulation. I hope when you visit Indonesia, I hope I can take you to some impressive mine reclamation sites. I think it's just some of statement from Pak Irdika to...
Please come again, Pak Rab.
Yes, thank you very much. But give me a small answer. The decision actually to make a plantation of exotic tree species or domestic tree species, or to create something else, an agroforestry system, is of course a decision of government, local community and them. Yeah, so the forestry sector can only support by, let's say, the right tools and by knowledge of the different tree species to achieve this goal. And if the decision is to produce fancy woods, ebony or something like this, then it's a decision. But then we have to know, of course, this ebony adaptability to different site conditions and changed site conditions due to the mining operation. That has to be known. If ebony, for example, is not a light demander, I don't know now, I cannot tell you now the adaptability of ebony, but if it is not a light demander, then we have to create a system, silvicultural systems, to have nurse trees first and underplant with ebony, for example. As an example, it's just a rough example. Yeah, so it's an own technology with the aim to create fancy wood plantations or other things, agroforestry systems or even agriculture. Yeah, but I cannot talk for agriculture, but if the aim is to have agricultural land, then of course we should ask the agricultural engineers to find a solution. Yeah, but we are open to everything what is decided by the local government, including the local communities and of course the federal government of Indonesia. Yes.
Okay, thank you, Pak Raps. So the next question, I think it is for Pak Iskandar. It is from Sita Mona Lisa. Sita Mona Lisa asking a question based on the regulation Kepmen 1827, Pak Iskandar. So actually, in this regulation, the biodiversity parameter is not included yet. So according to your opinion, it is necessary to include this parameter in the program of reclamation and mine closure.
Yeah, when we are talking about the biodiversity, it's quite a broad definition. Yeah, so you're talking about the plant diversity, you're talking about the animal diversity from the small one to little big and bigger one. You also consider about the microbial diversity as well, below soil, above ground, on the trees and the pipes, something like that. So the topic biodiversity is very broad, and we need to know at the which level that the existing biodiversity can give the sufficient ecosystem function. Yeah. So the process, the natural process is happening again to support the so-called the restoration, I think. Yeah. So mixing different kind of species, as mentioned by Professor Mitloner, through the agroforestry is very recommended, but you should know the step. Yeah, the steps. First one, of course, with the fast-growing light demander, creating very nice micro environment to bring back the biodiversity. Yeah, to bring back diversity. So if your plantation already a nice home for birds, for example, then you found a bird nest in your reclamation plot, it's also already good. Yeah. So bringing back the biodiversity. So the calculation, I think, you know, a different kind of biodiversity indices that can you use, yeah, to measure how much biodiversity level which is necessary regarding this one. Of course, biodiversity is important in this case. Thank you, Pak Teddy.
Okay, thank you Pak Iskandar. Just for the information, Pak Iskandar in the Capman 1827 is already mentioned for the success criteria of reclamation about the fast-growing species and also local tree species, but not mentioning how many species.
Yeah.
The number in each hectare, for example, something like that.
Yeah.
Okay. We are going to next question from Pak Didik Eka Saputra. This question is for Pak Sujatmiko. First question is talking about the abandoned mine. How the reclamation for the abandoned mine? And then the second one, it is possible if the reclamation is in the void form in general. Maybe 80%, yeah, 80% or 90%, the reclamation in a void form. Pak Sujatmiko.
First is about abandoned mine that not reclaimed well before. Is correct?
Yeah, yeah.
Abandoned mines, yeah. Abandoned mines.
Yeah, there are so many examples. For example, like Pak Dr. Sunbaik Bang told us about how the government of South Korea providing low interest capital for company who activity in X mining land that could not reclaim well. In America, there are some examples regarding super fund. So the government of America, the federal government, provide fund collecting from the mining operators to reclaim the orphan mine land, abandoned mine land that cannot be identified anymore, who is the owner and who will be responsible for that. In Indonesia, we have so many cases regarding illegal mining. I think that for the illegal mining, we will talk with our colleague from Ministry of Environment and Forestry. And in terms of the reclamation itself, in my opinion, it must be done by the government, because as part of the responsibility of the government to provide the good environment condition to the people of Indonesia. And for the void reclamation, I mean, if we think openly, actually there are so many opportunities talking about void area. We can perform it, or we can arrange it into wetland environmental landscapes. We can also study or make some feasibility study void as a source of renewable energy in terms of pump storage, power plant, or micro or pico hydro power plant, because in our colleague from the research of development in electricity, and there are so many low head generator that can produce electricity with not so big power. I mean, or In Cirata, TCB has been cooperated with Masdar from United Arab Emirates to build 145 megawatt floating solar PV in Cirata Reservoir Dam in West Java. If the situation is feasible and suitable with the economic development, like void that nearby the city, I think it can be also studied as a reservoir of floating solar PV source of energy, Pak. Thank you, Pak.
Okay, thank you, Pak Miko, for your explanation. I think this is the last question because we already reached 30 minutes for the discussion. And this question is for Pak Rap and Mr. Bang. So the question is coming from Ibu Hertanti Kusuma Wardani. So in your perspective, what is the main obstacle in reclamation in Indonesia? And the second one, can you give the advice so that reclamation in Indonesia becomes better? This question is for Pak Rap and Mr. Bang.
Mr. Bang first.
Maybe you can start first, Pak Rap.
Okay.
Yes.
I don't know the situation well enough to have a clear opinion, but I know what is a problem everywhere and maybe in Indonesia as well. That is, the main thing is that the sectors which should collaborate are not collaborating close enough. And this shows me that there is only one forester up to recent who is actually in the mining administration in Indonesia. So, but it's a good start. It's a good start. It's a very good start. So I think this could be more intensified because I think the technical things, how to bring the material, the soil material and these things to a certain level, I think the mining sector is doing very well. It's doing very well. But the capacity to raise the trees, to raise the right trees, to plant it in the right way, to make it, this lacks, at least what I have seen. And if they would collaborate even closer as they do already, then this would benefit and would benefit for this reclamation process. So I think, to say it short again, it is that the different sectors should really closely, very closely collaborate and work together and see the problem on the spot, to see it and let the mining companies openly say what is a problem and show what is a problem, and then very liberally and then join together and find solutions from the different sectors. I think that is very important. Not that every small company is trying to find its own way to solve the problem and try to hide it as much as possible from the big authorities, being maybe afraid to get punished or something like this. Maybe I'm wrong, but this is the most case wherever I have seen such a thing. Maybe in Indonesia as well.
Yeah, so for me, so I'm thinking that like a budget and the management skill is one of obstacle to remediation. Especially the big mine, I visit the Antam Pongkor in Bogor, and then also I visit the PT Singurus. So they manage very well in East Kalimantan. So big, company has no problem. The main problem is illegal mine. So they manage very well, but how government have to take care of their illegal mine? So they generate a lot of contamination, and then they just left. Like this one's the same situation like Korea. Japan, the Japanese came here and they developed a mine and then they left. Who's gonna take care of it? This is all the other government responsibility. So if you don't spend the budget right now, is like a spreading, especially the metal mine. You have a mercury. There's a big problem. This is spreading. That on effect to the other local people, and then also going to the other also their cultivation also. So in Korea, we have a very small land in Korea. So usually the farmland is next to the mine. So we investigate that farm area, very, very high contaminated, especially by the arsenic and then cadmium, but so we cannot report that one to the public. So one of the reason is that if you do that, all farmer come to the government office and that they are doing demonstrate, because once we announce, they cannot sell any their cultivation crops to public. So this is a very, very tricky things. So also the government have to check the investigate the contamination in illegal area, is how they can manage. And then this is all the government responsibility. So they have to put the budget for that. They have to first investigate which site is contaminated and how we can do. We have to discuss that part. So that is, I think, my advice in Indonesia. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bang. Ladies and gentlemen, we are on apology because we cannot continue our discussion session because of the limited time. Ms. Parisa will read for the conclusion of this webinar. Please.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, this is the end of Q&A session, and I believe there are so many questions, and so do I. For example, Professor Ralph and Professor Iskandar, actually, I want to ask about what is the appropriate species if the soil has 1, 2, 3 condition, like just quick question. But I know the time is over, and I realized that 2.5 hours is not enough to discuss this topic. So we hope that there is more collaboration between government, education institution, and mining companies to solve the problems, particularly stand productivity and so on. If I would like to sum up some points that we have discussed today, completion of mine reclamation criteria is compulsory based on regulation. In fact, many failures regarding stand productivity, especially, is often faced on site. However, there are some points or factors in terms of selecting the vegetation species, and therefore understanding science, particularly soil condition and species genetic, is important. And those factors are, first, specify purpose of future mine reclamation. So the species selection in establishing the forest must be different with the agriculture purpose or plantation purpose. And the second, identify genetic information, particularly native seed, and it can be conducted before land clearing or identification on natural forest surrounding mine area. And it is important to collect the genetic information to plan stand productivity, especially for establishing forest purpose. And in addition, it will be beneficial to plan the seed productivity to prepare availability in the future when mine reclamation or mine closure. And the third is understand the characteristic of soil. It is also the key point since it is included in the triangle of dependencies based on Prof. Ralph's presentation. And because the soil as planting media, the soil in the ex-mined area has some limiting factors regarding the lack of nutrient, ground compactness, erosion, soil salinity, and maybe soil contamination. And from the presentation, we also get some inspirations of mine reclamation or mine closure planning design. For example, what Insinyur Sujatmiko has explained nowadays, mine reclamation can be proposed as clean energy production, such as oil palm plantation for biofuel, photovoltaic establishment, and biomass co-firing with coal. And also from Mr. Bang's presentation, we can also see the tourism object, yeah, such as hotel, golf, theater, and also new industries and manufacturers. But remember, the mine reclamation and mine closure planning is based on spatial planning or RTRW. So ladies and gentlemen, now I would like to invite Acting Director of PEP Bandung or his representatives to deliver closing remark.
Okay,
Is
thank
it?
you, Parisa. So I will represent Pak Wahid Sugiman for the closing remark. So I would like to say thank you to Pak Sujatmiko, Pak Rap, Pak Iskandar, and Mr. Bang, willing to become our speaker in our international webinar. It is the first time PP Bandung conducting the international webinar. So I hope, especially for Pak Ralph and Mr. Bang, we can establish the research network and then the joint publication and the research collaboration in the future, not only in the mine reclamation program. As you know that we have 3 study programs. First is the technology of geology, technology of mining, and also technology of metallurgy. So that's why I think this mine reclamation is involving so many science. For example, mining, geologists, environmental engineering, civil engineering, agriculture, soil science, and of course, forestry and agriculture. So that's why we hope in the future we can make some collaboration. I think for the last one, Bu Parisa, Bu Messi, we can take picture first for all the speaker and the panelists.
Okay, to all speakers and panelists and committee, please turn on your video. Bapak Wahid Sugiman, are you there? Bapak Adang Saputra? Okay, okay. I don't think they are on Zoom right now. Okay, we will take just one photo shoot on my count. Okay, okay, Bapak Adang Saputra has joined with us. Okay, or like this? Oh no, okay, just like this.
Not like
okay.
this. Like this.
Thank you.
On my count, 1, 2, 3. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pak Teddy. Thank you, Pak Jatmiko.
Thank
you,
you,
Pak
Pak Iskandar.
Ralph, thank you. Dr. Bang.
Thank you, thank
you
you
for sharing.
semuanya.
We learned a lot today.
Thank you and see you soon.
See you soon.
Okay, Pak Sujatmiko.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you.
Thank
all
you,
speakers.
Dr. Rap, Dr. Rap, and Bang, Dr. Bang. Thank you.
Thank
Dr.
you.
Bang,
Bye.
Dr. Bang,
Indonesia.
Dr. Bang,
Pak
just
Teddy.
of you.
Parisa, very good, Parisa, for
Thank
wrapping up
you.
the sessions.
By the way, I want to close first.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, thank you all speakers. Terima kasih Bapak Insinyur Sujatmiko and Profesor Iskandar, Viendang, Profesor Ralph Mitloner, Tedani Kamsahamnida, Dr. Bang. We hope we can meet in another event or collaboration, later. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, this is the end of the webinar. Thank you for all participants. We hope you enjoy the webinar and get new insight of mine reclamation from the presentation. And especially for who works at mining sector and join this webinar, we hope that the quality of mine reclamation become better and better by understanding what we have discussed today. And we also hope you are always in a good health and always apply healthy protocol from Ministry of Health. Together we can fight COVID-19. Thank you for your attention. I am Farisatul Amana and good evening. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam.
Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, pamit.
Pak Rab.
Bye, Dr. Bang. Bye.
See you in Germany.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, Mr. Bang.